Hello, everybody. Welcome on back to Budstalkingbudz. I got my boss next to me, Sean Bean, and we are starting this episode right away off with an interview with our buddy, David Najera. Did I do it right?
You got it.
Okay, I like it. He is from Cali Select, from Northern California. Very interesting man. From went to college at Cal Poly Pomona. He's a Marine. No, he's not.
No, I didn't go to college. I went to school.
And then why did it say that?
I don't know.
I found it on something about you. So
you'll find a lot of stuff.
You'll find a lot of stuff
Never
if
mind.
you
Google me.
No, okay, so I take that back. He didn't go to Cal Poly Pomona. He went to school of Hard Knocks. Yeah. He is I was going to say former Marine, but
once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yeah. Cali Select. And Sean, let's start this off.
Yeah. So what's up, David? I kind of want to start with a little background, like maybe what's the first time you ever sold weed?
Yeah, the first time I ever sold weed, I was 11. A buddy of mine, his dad had a garage in the back, and it was kind of ironic because it was my first view of like a mixed light or greenhouse scenario. The roof of the garage just had a big glass window. And he had this elevated shelf with plants on it and these little tiny fans, and he had like a little tiny misters where he would mist the plants, and it was super cool because we would sit on the roof and smoke weed and watch these plants grow. And then eventually, we'd see they would be gone, and then the house would stink like weed, and this guy was paying my buddy's dad off with weed, so we would take that weed, and I remember we were trying to find a place to get high, and we found a place on the east side of Santa Barbara where, there was an old gang member there, old school guy. We asked him if we can smoke on his porch, and he was blown away by the weed, and we used to go there weekly, and eventually he said, "Hey, what do you say I sell this weed to the hood, and I'll give you half the money?"
Let's go.
I said, "Sure." So that was my introduction to selling weed.
So Santa Barbara, grew up in Santa Barbara?
Yeah. I was born and raised in that town.
Hell yeah. That's not far from where we're at now, just about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What was your, obviously we know you kind of kept going in the industry from 11 on. What was like the biggest you ever made it? Do you ever say, do you have like dispensaries, multiple grow ops? Like kind of what do you think your pinnacle was?
I mean, the early 2000s was pretty wild. It was the Prop 215 days, 2006 to 2008, when it was just kind of the Wild West out here. It was illegal in the state, but not federally, and it just kind of it was nothing like it is today. It was kind of a light it till the wheels fall off mentality, because at any given time you can get raided, and you'd go to, when you were in court, they would just deny, your medical defense. Yeah. So you'd be forced to take a conviction or a plea, because they would describe it like you just had a trap house.
Yeah. So you knew the wheels were going to fall off eventually.
At some point, and they didn't just fall off. I mean, they crashed off. I was part of something called Operation Green Prescription when Bush was about to go out of office, and must have hit about 100 shops statewide. I was one of them. It was a pretty big bust. They hit me. They hit multiple vendors and people that I worked with, and of course the news blew it up.
So you were running a dispensary at the time?
Yeah, I had a dispensary in Santa Barbara.
And they just came in?
They hit my house, actually.
Okay.
And then, because that was, back then you didn't want to have everything in the shop just for that reason, that at any given time they could show up. So
yep.
But they knew that.
Yeah. They had my house surrounded, bugged. I had no clue.
How did that happen? How did they bug your house then?
The house was listed for sale, so I would have to leave the house, and then they would stage. It would be basically a viewing would come, and the cops task force came in and bugged my house. So they had.
That's insane.
Yeah, they had it surrounded. I was out of town when I got back. They knew that it was the day that everyone was going to be coming, shipments were coming, and friends were coming in town, and it was the day to hit me. And they had staged a viewing that day, the cops did, and they canceled the viewing because I was waiting for it to happen so that I can conduct business. So then I get a call from the real estate agent saying that it's been canceled, and I remember his voice just sounded odd. And, you know, I guess maybe my ADD got the better of me, and I said, all right, let's go to lunch.
Right.
And we all took off and split out of my house in a bunch of different vehicles as they're all getting, you know, suited and vested up to come hit my house. We all just, you know, vanish out of there. So they eventually hit my house when one of my partners went by and hit my dispensary the next day, and, you know, blew me up on the news. And I still managed to get away, and I was like actually a fugitive for about a month and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. Turned myself in, went away, took a deal. You know, they actually offered me a deal where I would get out after being down for about 5 months, no felony, no more jail time, but I would have to sign a statement that I wouldn't work in cannabis for 10 years. So I did the time.
So you did the time.
Yeah.
How hard of a decision was that?
Yeah.
Like, was it like, no, I'm for the cause. I'm down,
no.
going to prison.
I'll be totally honest with you. Just picture me in a courtroom wearing an orange jumpsuit. And when they stated that, I didn't realize there was a microphone in front of me, just like there is now. And I looked to my attorney, whispering with a microphone in front of me, fuck that shit, I'm going to prison. And it just echoed in the whole courtroom. All the guys in the cage started like yelling and hooting, hollering. And
Yeah. Even
Wow.
like the DA, I mean, even like, you know, anybody involved in the feds were probably like, yeah, I get respect for this guy.
Yeah.
Respect.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a move.
Yeah.
That's a move right there.
I
Yeah.
did my time and got out and jumped back in.
Yeah. What was it like trying to get back in the industry? Were people hesitant to work with you after doing that, after doing a bid?
You know, not really, because I did the time, you know, and I was actually lucky enough because it was my first time going to prison and I didn't have any violence on my record. I was able to do a program that when I got out, I went straight to like a rehab and only had to I did 5 months there and I had no parole, no probation. I was done.
Nice, yeah.
That's pretty slick. I
Yeah,
mean,
'cause-
for a bad situation like that, I guess that's
Because probation is what they get you with. So then they're going to slap you like, hey, now you're on 5 years of probation. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's one of the ways they try to control people after they do their time. It's like, yeah, you did your time, but now we're going to make it so nobody touches you for a few years.
And on top of that, I mean, you know, it's when that's why they get stuck in the system, because they're on probation or they're on parole.
Yep.
And then they just, you know, go to what they know, which I knew I was going to go back to weed. You know, there was no doubt in my mind. So I finished that program in October, you know, and I just went right up north and went to my buddy's farm and started managing his scene.
Yeah.
Bought a farm the next year and just, you know, didn't stop.
So were you planning all this while you're in prison? Like, oh, I already know what the next step, I'm going to go up north. Were you having conversation with anybody else about your business that you just left? Excuse me. You left, and now did you have any contact, or did you just like, for like better, were you blind for 2 years and then you got out and then you started just?
Oh, I mean,
running
I did
again?
nothing. I did nothing but plan. I knew what I was going back to. You know, I had, you know, I'd put some things away, you know, and I said, okay, when I get out, I want to, you know, I'm going to go buy a property. I'm going to start growing weed outside. You know, I knew I was going to do it, and I was planning, you know, and I knew that when I got out, I'd always done people good in the industry. So I'd, you know, if I had to start from the bottom, I would, but I knew I could, you know, jump back in, and I didn't skip a beat. You know, I bought a property as soon as I got out, and then just grew 99 plants outside. And
Where was that property at?
I was up in Butte County.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Wild Wild West.
Yeah, that was outlaw. You know, there was a time when they were really cool with cannabis. You know, and as soon as I got out, I opened another dispensary, and I was actually able to get my hands back on my old dispensary. So, you know, I didn't really miss much time, but then eventually Butte County cracked down. You know, and then in year 2 they hit all my farms again, and you know, it's like right when I was about to rebuild, they hit it. And, you know, luckily I had a really good attorney, and I mean, I owned a dispensary, I had 5,000 patients, and, you know, I got a slap on the list. It was just a very hard slap. And
Yeah. It's always to deal with the state or a local government. It's usually a little bit easier than the feds. They kind of hold a little harder line. Would that be your experience?
yeah, absolutely. That was you know, when I had my dispensary and they came and hit me and I took the prison time, my attorney told me that there was a federal indictment pending. And even in some recent articles I was reading, it actually states in the article, you know, the federal indictment pending. So that was, that was part of the strategy. Take a deal. If you take this to trial and win, they have, I don't know what the statute of limitation is. The feds, I could have beat the state, and then the feds could have filed.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's always somebody waiting around the corner for you. Yeah. Okay. So that grow got raided. Then I'm sure you've got other grows going on, like hopping around. Where'd you go after the Butte grow?
After the Butte grow, I moved to San Diego and just kind of became I became like a stay-at-home, stepdad, and just, I leased out my farms, to people and just kind of use that, use it, since I had a turnkey system, I was able to get very good rent, and it allowed me to, deal with my case and let time pass. And after a few years, I started to get stir crazy, and I said, okay, like I got to get back to work, and I was about to get off probation, and I started growing. That's when I first checked out light depths. I got a place down in Southern California and put up a couple of greenhouses. And so I need to learn this light depth mixed light thing, because it's gonna be big in the next 5 years.
Could you explain mixed light? I know I barely knew it when he told me about it. So if you could tell our people listening.
So the main thing is, there's indoor, outdoor, and a greenhouse. Greenhouse can be, there's a lot of different types. There's old school hoops, just PVC hoops or metal cold flame hoops where you have some plastic on it, and then when you want these plants to start budding, you just, you black them out for 12 hours a day like you would do inside, and it allows you to get harvest in the middle of the summer instead of having to wait till the fall. Same thing if you're in a good temperate climate or you have some heating, you black it out and you turn the lights on so the plants can keep vegging, so that you can get, so basically instead of getting one crop a year like you would outside, you can get 4 to 5, in a greenhouse. Kind of like the same, it's like a blend between indoor and outdoor. So that, and then mixed light is when you have like an environmentally controlled greenhouse with, an indoor lighting footprint. So you have all the same things you would have in an indoor facility, but you also have the best asset, which is the sun. So that's what we currently use, because there's a lot of greenhouse and there's a lot of light depth, which, light depth, there's outdoor light depth. All light depth means is that you're going to deprive it of light for 12 hours to induce buds. But we try to set ourselves apart by, using state-of-the-art greenhouses where we can actually control the environment, have all the things you would have in an indoor facility, but have it in a greenhouse.
Yeah, so it's all about like controlling the photo period, being able to make it dark when it needs to be dark, being able to make it light when it needs to be light. So like if you just have like a regular hoop house with no shade, where you get maybe 2 rips a year out of it, but you start adding a shade and you can get a few more, you start adding an artificial light, then you can pretty much, especially if it's environmentally controlled, go all year round. It's kind of the concept, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about controlling that photo period. I was just having a conversation today with somebody from the Midwest that were wanting me to send them some seeds. And they're like, yeah, man, the second I get them, I'm going to pop them in the ground. And I was like, in October? Like, what? That's not going to work. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was kind of explaining a little bit, like, no, you need to wait to plant. You plan on cropping this time next year. And don't be throwing them in the ground, but you're just getting ready to freeze. And, the light cycle's not going to be correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what he's talking about now is his current grow is Cali Select Farms. I've been up there personally. It's epic, everybody. It's in Mendocino County. He's doing one of the only facilities I've ever been to where he's again actually controlling the environment, whether it's too cold, adding heat, if it's hot, cooling it down, and then of course controlling the photo period. So can you tell me a little bit about like your evolution? So you said you were learning some light depth in San Diego. When was the first time that you actually like had a greenhouse with mixed lights that you could make hot or cold when you wanted to?
That would be 2017. I bought one of the first greenhouses after. There's a company called Forever Flowering. They make the the internal shade systems. Really nice greenhouses. Jonathan, he's a great guy. After them, a lot of the commercial greenhouse companies like Connolly, Farm Tech, Agritech, all the companies that just did greenhouses for 50 plus years, started getting into cannabis. So I bought a Farm Tech. It was called an S500. It was it was a hoop, like a wind tunnel, but it had an internal curtain system. We would put about, I want to say 56 lights in each house, and It's kind of like if you've never driven a car and you get a self-driving Tesla, is a lot like what using these greenhouses were like. So I'll admit, our first few goes at it in these, were not the best, and then eventually I had a place in Willits, eventually moved on from that facility, and we got the place we're at now in Potter Valley, and just went back, the old school way again. We did cold flames for a while, and then we basically used the revenue from that to start building out the facility we grow in now, which was, we started building it out in 2019, and we were able to hit the market in 2020 with Cali Select, with flowers specifically out of those environmentally controlled greenhouses.
Yeah, it's for everybody listening. He's really setting himself apart with his cultivation techniques. I've traveled to many different cultivation sites, and you walk into one of his greenhouses, and you can tell that he's paying attention to every single aspect of the environment, and it shows. For those of you guys watching on YouTube, we got a bunch of his weed here on the table.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah. A little.
Well, all that sounds expensive.
Yes.
So how did this? Because it sounds like you're not in the middle of LA with a whole bunch of electricity and a whole bunch of. It sounds like you're in the middle of almost nowhere. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Where are you getting your electricity and your water and all that from?
So the cool thing about Potter Valley is when it was designed, God knows how many years ago, they built these canals that was, meant to feed the whole valley. So I have like this man-made lake on my property that's probably 3 to 4 acres in size, and it's fed from Lake Pillsbury, which is fed by the Eel River. And whenever the water gets low, we just call the irrigation district, and they open the canals and it fills up. So we have like a mini Eel River on our property that feeds our whole facility.
Thank God.
Yeah.
That's probably a savior for that. Was that a buying point, or did you even know that when you were going to buy?
I didn't know that, and I mean, it had a well, but it was
that can only go so far, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty shallow well, and then they started putting restrictions on cannabis farmers about a year ago on water usage, even with the irrigation district. So we became cowboys. We went and got a bunch of cattle, and we've got cattle on the farm as well, so we could boost our water as well. So. The lake, I don't know if it's a mini lake or a giant pond, it feeds the whole facility. We got multi-stage filtration, everything, and the water's great.
Yeah, they keep pulling. I mean, no matter what municipality it is, they're like, hey, you vineyard, growing grapes, you can have all the water you want. Like David said, you add some cows, you can get a little bit more water, but cannabis water is on major restrictions. It's just like one of the areas that they try to kind of stifle the industry is, controlling resources like that. Whether it's not approving, power upgrades for years and years and years, restricting water. There's always ways that they can, kind of keep their finger on you.
Yeah, we're waiting. It was a 3-year waiting list for us to get power. We paid for our electrical permits at
3 years.
We paid for them at the end of 2020, and they said that we should have it spring of 2024. So we have like a 500,000 kilowatt generator running our whole facility, going off diesel, and then with all these fluctuating diesel prices. Yeah, it's been tough, and
wow.
So yeah, we're still waiting to get enough power to run our own facility.
And that's just because a bunch of people are doing that up there, and so why is it such a delay?
They have to run like a 200-mile underground line.
They have to make everything. Oh, excuse me.
They have to bring more power to the Emerald Triangle because we all need electricity.
Yeah.
Between us, it's going to be to service us, Humboldt County, and Lake County.
Okay, so California knows it's a necessity for that area, so it's gonna happen.
There's just not enough power. But with things happening in the industry, a lot of people that are waiting on power may never get to see it because they may drop out.
That sucks.
Yeah, but you figured out a way by putting a generator in there and just making enough money to pay for that diesel, which has got to be the daily bills just got to be crazy.
Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah. Well, hey,
it's not fun.
Yeah, you're just coming off the sunny season though, so you probably didn't have to run the generator as much as you're going to have to in the winter.
Unfortunately, since we're environmentally controlled greenhouses, those things are completely sealed, so that thing runs 24/7. We're not using as much power because we weren't using the lights, so. We'll start burning more, as we go in the winter month, plus propane. So the winter is a very, very challenging time to grow. It's your lowest yields and the most expensive time, most expensive way to grow.
Nice.
Jeez.
Man, this is there's so many nuances to it all that it would take since you were 11 until now to like gain the knowledge that you have. All right, everybody. Let's call that a podcast.
Yeah?
Yeah, man.
No more questions?
No. David Najera, everybody. Marine, I guess, felon, owner of Cali Select.
Didn't go to Cal Poly Pomona.
Did not go.
He
to
did
that.
not.
Okay.
Which I had to look that up. I didn't even
saw
know what
it.
that says.
I
Yeah.
saw-
I think I sold weed though once, in the parking lot.
I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. It was like on something. Maybe they're just trying to make you sound good. And funny because my cousin who works in the industry in Vegas, he went to Pomona for horticulture. So I'm like, oh, we're gonna have something to talk about. Nope, no, we don't.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, David.
Yeah, thank
Right on.
you. We'll try to do this again.
Definitely.
Thank you.